Hello, this is Tammy with Impressors Extraordinaire, and today I'm going to show you a card that's going to showcase the heat embossing method. And if you've never seen it before, I know when I saw it for the very first time, I was like really excited because whenever I'd seen embossing on Christmas cards or any other cards in the past, I thought, oh my gosh, that must be so hard to do. But really, it is super simple. You just need the right tools, and you are going to have so much fun, and you're going to want to heat emboss everything from here on out. So without further ado, I am going to bring to you my heat embossed card. Here we go. So this is my card, and it's super simple, super easy to make, and I'll show you how to do the heat embossing so that you too can do it. This card starts with a card base that is 5.5 by 8.5, and you are going to score your card base. I don't know if you can see the score mark on it, but anyway, oh, you can see the shadow of my camera. Anyway, you're going to take your card base, and where you have scored it with your tool, you are going to really burnish that fold on the score line. And so you've got a card base that looks like this. And then you're going to come in, and I have already embossed this piece of white cardstock, which is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 with our new embossing folder that's in our catalog that went live this month and goes through December. It's called Christmas Tidings. And this embossing folder, you need the machine that we have, the Stamp and Cut and Emboss machine. And you can do dry embossing with this embossing folder. It makes it so super easy and so fast. So I've got one pre-done, and it is right here. So I'm going to take some liquid glue and just glue around the edges. You don't need a lot of this because a little goes a long way with this liquid glue. So bring in your card base and center it in your card front, and just give it a smoosh. And then the next thing I did with my card was I took a circle that I cut using the deckled circle dies, which is also new in our mini catalog that just went live this month. And then after I cut it with the deckled circle, I came back in and I dry embossed it with another embossing folder called the Cane Weave. And so those tools are here, and the deckled circles, it looks like this on the front side of the package, deckled circle dies. And let's see, I'm not sure how many. Yes, there are 14 dies in this set, and you use the 6th from the middle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to make this circle here. And then you come back in with the Cane Weave embossing folder with your Stamp and Cut and Emboss machine, and you just run it through the machine. And it's best if you cut your circle first and then run it through with the embossing folder, because if you did it the other way, it will smash down this part of your card, the cane embossing, and it's just prettier when you have a more dimension to it. So I've got that pre-done, and I'm going to come in and using my liquid glue again, just run some around the edge. And then kind of snail it in toward the center. And then take your piece and center it on your card Looks pretty good. And then just press it down again, smoosh, smoosh. And then I'm going to set my cards aside for now. And I am going to show you the next part of this card, which is the piece that we're going to heat emboss. So I've got a piece of cardstock that I've used the stitched rectangle dies, and I put most of my dies in these plastic cases that we can get in our catalog. So here are all of my stitched rectangles, and I actually used this one for this piece. I cut the cardstock 3 1/4 by 1 1/4, and then I ran it through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine and ended up with this piece. So can you see the embossing on there? It's just nice stitching around the edge. So on with the heat embossing part of this project. I am using my tool, which is the Embossing Editions toolkit, and it includes this nice thing that you can set your, it's like a dish, you can set your piece down in. And it also includes this embossing buddy, which has a powdery substance in it, and it removes the oils from your cardstock so that the embossing powder does not stick to your cardstock. So you run your embossing buddy over your cardstock, takes all the oils off, set that aside. It also includes this tweezer that you can hold your cardstock with, because when you use a heat tool, it does get pretty darn hot. It gets so hot it melts the powder. So, and then it also has this brush that you can use to clean out your pan, or you can brush off some pieces of the stray embossing powder from your project. So let's get started with the heat embossing. You're going to use the Versamark watermark stamp pad, and it is clear tacky ink, and you're going to put your sentiment piece from your stamp set, which I am using the Festive and Fun stamp set for my sentiment. And without getting too much of my hands on that label, because I do not want to get my oils all over there, I'm going to come down with my sentiment and just putting some even pressure on there and letting it sit for a bit so that it can soak into the cardstock. Then I'm going to come straight up with my stamp and cover my ink up. And then I'm going to come in with the gold embossing powder and sprinkle it all over where you ink. And then I like to get as much of the embossing powder back in the pot as I can, and then just kind of flick it off. And it looks like I got a little bit messy with my ink, so I'm going to try to come in and clean that up a bit without boogering up the S. All right, pretty good. And then I'm going to put my lid back on my embossing powder, because I'm going to bring in my heat tool. And the heat tool, obviously, it's like it's kind of like a blow dryer. So there's air coming out, hot air. And I'm going to hold my piece with my tweezers. And I hope that you can see the magic happen with this. I'm not sure how well the camera will pick it up, but basically what's going to happen is this embossing powder that looks kind of brown right now is going to turn a pretty shiny gold. So turn your heat tool on, and I know this is going to be loud, but I want to hopefully show you the magic. So heat tool is going on. Gonna let it heat up for a little bit, and then I'm gonna come in and just let the heat blow onto that embossing powder. And I'm not sure if you can see it happening, but the magic is totally happening. And Just turn that off, and voila, we have beautiful embossing. And it's so easy peasy. All right, you don't want to touch that until it cools, because the embossing powder does turn to liquid before it then solidifies again. So just wait till it dries and cools, and then you're ready to use it on your project. So I'm going to bring my card back in, and the next thing I want to do is I want to take these 4 holly leaves, and I'm going to set my sentiment there, and I'm going to place these 4 holly leaves, which I used the die from Magical Meadow. I have the bundle, which includes the dies and the stamp set. And so I am using the holly die, which is that one. And I cut 4 of the holly leaves. And then I'm just going to position them so that they look right underneath my sentiment. So just place them right here, just so they look kind of cool. And this is all in the eye of the beholder, right? So you do yours the way it looks best to you. That's the really cool thing about making cards, is we can make them the way we like them. All right, so that looks pretty good. And I don't want to move anything, so I'm going to take my sentiment away and leave all of those in place. And then I'm going to come in with a 2-sided adhesive. It's called Tear and Tape. It's a double-sided adhesive, and I don't really need double-sided, but I didn't want to move these either. So I'm just going to use this adhesive to stick down these 3 leaves hopefully without them moving. So just like that. And I think I'll go ahead and take off the top piece that actually protects. Oh, I don't want that. No bone folder for that. Use my take your pick tool to pull off the top layer, the protective piece of the tear and tape. And then I'm going to come in with my dimensionals, which dimensionals are these little foam pieces that are have adhesive on both sides. And stick those down. And then come over here and stick that down. Try to make sure it's straight. And voila. The card is almost complete. So it's a really easy card. The next thing I'm going to come in with are my red and green adhesive back pearls. And using my take your pick tool again, I've got this other end that has that tacky stuff on it. And I'm going to pick up my red, my cherry cobbler pearls, and kind of gonna bunch them up like you would see holly berries. At the opposite corners on my label here. And just about done. And voila! Ta-da! All done. Easy peasy card, really cute. Lots of cool things going on with it. Dry embossing, heat embossing, some Christmassy colors. And you can make your cards any color that you want to make them. I just chose to do some traditional here, a little bit skewed on the traditional green and red, but still green and red. And I just really like the way it turned out. I hope you like it too. And I'm very happy that you joined me today, and I'll be back with another video at some point soon. Thanks for watching.